Welcome to another episode of the Very Online Show, where two extremely online people, that is once again me and Lucy, still online, back at it like a bad habit. Yeah, for our sins, we are online. And we explain to one kind of online, increasingly online, but also decreasingly online person, Jeff, what the hell is going on? How online have you been this week, Jeff?
I've been fairly online. I do recommend unplugging just a little bit. Mm-hmm. I was on a boat the other day. Ooh. No online there. That was a lot of fun.
That is a lie. I saw you post an Instagram story from that boat. Your Honor, take him away.
Boat. Damn.
Yeah, I actually walked right into that one. You are correct.
How did you get an Ethernet port all the way out to the boat? Because
they've got wires as long as bays now, my friend. You can get internet wherever you want. Technology is amazing.
Wow, incredible. Well, hopefully you haven't seen the subject of today's Very Online Show.
I can almost guarantee you I have not.
You might have some familiarity. This is going to be a kind of different one. I kind of wanted to go with something a little more focused again. And not a trend. I wanted to go on a person. So we started with M. Night Shyamalan, as I like to call him, who is M. Night Shyamalan.
Did you come up with that between the recording of that episode and right now?
Literally came up with it right now. And now we're going to go on to someone else.
Okay.
So, Jeff, if I said the words, "Oh, shucks, ma'am," would you know what I'm referring to?
Aw shucks, ma'am?
If I had a hat with a brim on it instead of this brimless hat, and I did a "aw shucks, ma'am," and tipped my hat a bit to hide my emotional unfurling, would you know what I'm referring to?
It sounds almost like a Marty McFly, Western sort of cowboy hat, "Aw shucks, ma'am." It does sound like a Western thing, like a cowboy thing.
So, kind of. The person who does it is wearing a cowboy hat.
Okay.
Jeff, I'm gonna direct you to a video. Do you recognize the man? Obviously, you should recognize the man.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser. Yeah.
Oklahoma. That's better.
I love it. I love it.
I'm gonna work with Scorsese and Leo and Bob De Niro.
Yes, I saw. Congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you. I think I might be sick. A little anxious.
Oh no!
I mean, it's going to be fun.
You got this. You've got this.
Got it.
Just know that the internet is so behind you. We're so supportive. There are so many people out there who love you, and we're rooting for you, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
Shucks, ma'am.
That is, of course, Brendan Fraser.
I love how that interviewer was like, "The internet is behind you. We're all behind." She's the internet. She was on behalf of the entire internet.
We're
behind
you. She's cosplaying as Evie from The Mummy, which is my favorite thing.
That's awesome.
Was she cosplaying as Evie? She
is. She's cosplaying as Evie.
Yeah, that white chair for sure.
So that moment became a huge deal on the internet in the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The world is absolutely loving Brendan Fraser's nice interview moment.
Wait, we've got to set something straight though. Tam, can you click on the video that I put in the comment there?
What the hell is this?
Hi, I'm Brendan Fraser. You're watching Comedy Central. That's Fraser, not Frasier. If you say Fraser, I know where you live.
I remember that.
Fraser. He's not here. He's not coming.
I remember that little bumper. That's wild.
So that moment with the interviewer went kind of wild, and everyone was like, "Oh, Brendan Fraser's awesome! Oh, everyone, let's protect Brendan Fraser." Seeing him super emotional has like not forced, but like brought people out to pledge their love for him, and they proclaim how he must be protected at all costs, and started to reminisce about his career. And then some people naturally go, "What happened to him?"
Well, okay. I mean, look, I'm actually highly fluent and familiar with his library of work.
But do you know what happened to him?
After like the Mummy movies, I would imagine at some point you hit a point in your career where like maybe you're just not getting offered stuff, but you have so much goddamn money that it's like, I'm gonna chill maybe. I do know what he was talking about, how he got cast in that Scorsese film. So, like, that's a big deal.
Well, Jeff, on this episode of the Very Online Show, we're going to do a deep dive into what happened to Brendan Fraser. Look at his history, his journey, and ultimately why it feeds into why he's gone viral. Okay. I will tell you, the story is much sadder and much more complicated than you may realize.
Oh, no. It always is, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're doing this because it's worth saying that Lucy and I are huge fans of Brendan Fraser. Yeah, we are aficionados.
Can I ask what your favorite film
it's The Mummy. Mine is The Mummy.
Mine is The Mummy Returns because
The Mummy Returns. I treat him as Tupac.
My one issue with The Mummy is definitely Evie's eyebrows.
Okay.
However, I just think in The Mummy Returns, everyone is just really.
See, Rachel Weisz in The Mummy Returns 2 is good grief.
So, well, here's what's
my glasses
wild
are fogging up
about Brendan Fraser is like, this is where the generational divide finally shows its ugly face. Okay.
Oh no.
Because I in no way consider him an action star.
I consider him one of the greatest action stars of all time.
He is an unbelievable action star.
And that's not for better or worse. I love him equally, it sounds like. But when I think of him, I think of Encino Man, and I think of Airheads.
Bedazzled.
One of my all-time favorite guilty pleasures of a 90s movie. Tell me you've seen Airheads. You know what that is.
I believe I have seen Airheads.
I haven't seen it, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah. Airheads is it is the most 90s ass movie there ever was, but it has 15 like AAA stars in this relatively shitty movie about a band that takes a radio station hostage so that they play their song on the air.
Wait, so similar to Empire Records in a way? Where it just had like a bunch of stars before they were stars.
Yes, same way. Yeah. I mean, I think it was a little later on in a lot of people's careers where they were already established, but somehow all found themselves in this film. But like but similar.
Judd Nelson.
In the way, yeah, Judd Nelson's in it. Like Ernie Hudson, Chris Farley, David Arquette is in it.
Steve Buscemi,
Adam Sandler. It's an unbelievable cast, and you're just like, what? They're all in this movie? I guess almost in a way of like Wet Hot, where like, I guess Wet Hot, all those people were sort of established anyway. But you get it. Yeah. Wild though that like you see him as the Mummy guy, and I'm just like, no, he's been in just like 90s ass ridiculous movies.
There's a reason why you feel like that, and we're gonna dig into that.
Okay, cool.
Brendan Fraser, This Is Your Life.
Exposed.
Not exposed, sadly.
Wait, do the US have This Is Your Life?
I don't think they have This Is Your Life in the US.
I know what This Is Your Life is.
Oh, with the big red book?
Okay, with the big red book?
Well, like I know like what, I don't know why I know what it is. I just know that it's like a show where it's a single person as a guest and there's a host and they basically like unpack the person's life in front of them.
Yeah.
This is your life. Yeah.
So let's do that for Brendan.
Let's do it.
Brendan James Fraser, as I'm sure you know, an actor that rose to prominence in the 90s. His most memorable role being Rick O'Connell, hero of the Mummy series, and which I believe wholeheartedly in every conceivable way is better than Indiana Jones. Yes, today I have chosen violence.
This isn't this. You know what? It isn't the first time I've heard you say that.
No, and I'll continue to say it to my
And
dying
I'm still
breath.
shocked every time, but I agree with you.
Yeah,
that first Mummy movie, there are scenes in that movie that just do not hold up. I mean,
No, yeah, you are incorrect,
what?
Jeff.
it
In
is
the
just,
first movie,
doesn't it just look
Name a
like
scene.
garbage? Doesn't it just look like garbage?
It looks
Okay.
fine.
No.
It looks fine.
Okay,
It looks
okay.
fine.
I guess we'll believe anything. Okay,
You know,
sure.
Indiana Jones, low-key racist. Let's go. Whatever.
It's not right.
Yeah, I'm not pitting it against Indiana Jones. Anyway, go.
Fraser, like most actors trying to make their way, started at the bottom. He played a sailor in a film called Dogfight, which has also had River Phoenix and Lily Taylor in it. So in that film, he gets, as part of a fight, he gets thrown into a pinball machine. And
Now you're talking.
in the pinball machine, sadly, is destroyed, Jeff. So I don't think you want to get on board with that.
R.I.P. R.I.P.
In his own words, after crashing through the pinball machine, he said he thought he'd bruised the rib, but his attitude as this like hungry upcoming actor is what he said. That's okay, I'll take it. I can do it again. If you want it, I'll break it, referring to the rib. You want me to do it again? So he'd ask about that. So he's very eager to please and like is willing to throw himself at anything to get the job done.
It's big Johnny Knoxville. Actually, no, it's more like Steve-O energy.
Yeah, big Steve-O energy, big lot of the Jackass folks. So like in that
Jackass.
Jackass.
We've never called it Jackass.
Jackhat. I say Jackass just because it absolutely
Jackass.
rustles people.
Yeah.
So that moment with the pinball machine, in many ways, kind of would go on to define his career, what's expected of him, and what he's willing to give, and together, those things would be what causes his eventual departure from the spotlight for an extended period of time. So, after Dogfight, over the next few years, Fraser becomes the leading man in Hollywood. He might not be the leading man to Jeff Bacala, but to Hollywood and
I love him.
and to the rest of us, this man was like infallible. Basically, a lot of like folks remember the 90s action heroes as being super dominant. You know, there's Arnold and Sly and Van Damme, but they forget that Fraser was incredibly bankable as a star for just a little while. He was absurdly handsome, first of all. The man
Unbelievably
handsome. Like
my man's he carried off the male bang curtains
the
thing.
swoosh.
Like, oh my god.
Okay.
Also
Absolutely killed it.
incredibly fit. We've all seen George of the Jungle.
yeah.
Sure.
As well as being handsome, he was ridiculously charismatic, like unbelievable. It's what gives him the edge over Indiana Jones in The Mummy. And that meant that he ended up playing a lot of roles where he was this kind of like likable goof character that was he's treated as like every one of his characters feels like they're living in the world for the first time. It's like their first day on the planet. And he's like, that's how he played his characters and people loved him for it. That's what he was in Encino Man and in George of the Jungle. And that was pretty much his thing. In 1999, though, he was in a little film called The Mummy. Which was very much the movie that catapulted him into superstardom. From there, he did a couple of sequels to those films, and he was in a Looney Tunes film, which was a pretty big deal. You know, in the 90s, Looney Tunes was basically all-consuming. And according to IMDb, he was in around 25 productions in the 90s, which is wild. And I went through the IMDb, and it wasn't unusual to see him listed in 3 films in a given year, which was absurd.
Cool.
And here's what he said about that. He said, I believe I probably was trying too hard in a way that's destructive. And yes, it was very
self-aware. Okay.
Yeah. Every role he usually did had some element of him being, for like a comparison, some element of being thrown into a pinball machine. He was a very physical actor. He usually did his own stunts, and that was kind of taken advantage of in many ways. So he was on set destroying his body, picking himself up, and then going off to the next set and doing it again because of the nature of how many things he was part of in that period.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. Have you so you know the bit in The Mummy where he's in the prison and he's getting like he's hanged and Evie has to come and negotiate for him. He was like fully choked out at that point. Like he passed out. Like he almost died on set that day.
The actual stunt went wrong, and because of the way the noose was tied, it was actually hanging him, and everyone thought he was selling it really well, and then someone eventually realized that this looks a bit too real, and they basically saved his life. He almost died.
Did they use that in the film?
Yeah, that is the version in the film.
Take,
I think.
yes.
Yeah.
So
double checking.
It's pretty messed up.
It is. They had to cut it away moments after, but that is the take that they use in the film.
Sheesh.
Yeah, so around this time, he was quite popular in a lot of popular films, but he was, because of the amount of things he was doing, he didn't have an amazing hit rate. In the same year, he was in some massive failures at the same time.
Yes.
In the same year as he was in The Mummy, which was a massive success, he was in Dudley Do-Right with Sarah Jessica Parker.
SJP, that's right.
I never even heard of that one.
That's he plays a Mountie.
It's like an old
Canadian. Yeah.
I think it's an old cartoon that they turned into a live action.
Exactly. Yeah. That film absolutely tanked. It was a failure on every conceivable way. So basically having these ups and downs along with the pressure to remain relevant that is put upon most Hollywood actors create this mindset where he felt that he really had to push himself to the extreme. You know, he wasn't like, every movie's a banger, I'm good. He was like, I've had one good movie, now I've had a bad movie, and now I need to make up for that bad movie. And at the same time, he's trying to, establish himself as a part of the furniture in Hollywood almost. Like he doesn't ever feel like he's made it. So he gave this interview with GQ that was published in 2018, and this interview is incredible, and it's what I would say very much is responsible for the kind of resurgence and groundswell of support for him. So in this interview, he talks about doing the third Mummy film, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, which is bad, but it's also good.
Oh, we're able to admit that. Okay.
We just don't have anything said about the first two.
Yeah. It's a bad film, but it's got Brendan Fraser in it. So
can't be that bad.
And he talks about doing it, and this is his quote. Lucy, can you read his quote?
I was put together with tape and ice, just like really nerdy and fetishy about ice packs. Screw cap ice packs and downhill mountain biking pads because they're small and light and they can fit under your clothes. I was building an exoskeleton for myself daily.
Oh, Brendan.
Yeah, so he basically destroyed his body for our entertainment, and Hollywood kind of let him do it. Back then, like, very little consideration given to physical and mental health of actors, and you can see the impact of that on most movie stars of that era, how they live today. Like, the action heroes that we know are broken. Like, they are just like, they're still out there, but like some of them are in real rough shape. So from there, things didn't get much better for Brendan Fraser. He went to star in a bunch of movies that absolutely bombed, including Monkey Bone.
I remember that one.
And that aforementioned Looney Tunes Back in Action, that tanked. It didn't perform as well as people thought. The sad thing about that is, even in the worst of those movies, the ones that bomb the hardest, he's always good. He's always entertaining, and you can tell he's working his ass off. It's the material that he's given to work with that does a lot of the damage. Maybe this is me just making up for the man I love, but who knows? And that damage kind of like had Hollywood producers wondering if he was really the leading man. They looked at all this stuff and they were like, he's not popping off all the time, and that made him question whether he is. He is the star that people think he is. And then came a incident that he attributes for plunging him into a deep, deep depression. In 2003, before the Looney Tune movie hit screens, he was groped by the former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, Philip Burke.
I think I heard about that.
Yeah. So the description...
I remember that.
Yeah, so the description in the GQ article is very, very graphic, and the term grope feels like an understatement. I'm not going to read it out because it's it is horrible, and I don't want to subject people to listen to it. obviously Burke, who is the former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, said it was just a pinch. And even in Burke's written apology, which Brendan Fraser struggled to get out of him, Burke didn't admit any wrongdoing. He talked around it. But the incident itself had an incredibly detrimental impact on Fraser, and he said he blamed himself for it. And at the same time, while he was going through that, he kind of fell out of favor in Hollywood. And some people have attributed that to, he has said it in as much words, and other people kind of are on his side with it. The influence that the Hollywood Foreign Press Association has might have had some part to play, although they deny it. They just say no, actors come and go, and that's exactly what happened to him. But Fraser basically said the incident corrupted who I was and what I was doing, and work in Hollywood withered on the vine for me. In my mind, at least, something had been taken away from me. So he was in a rough state. And then between 2003 and 2008, he was basically a ghost. He did appear in a few of episodes of one of my favorite shows of all time, Scrubs. He had a 3-episode arc as Ben Sullivan, who is the brother of Jordan, who was in a relationship with Dr. Cox, and Danny, who was played by Tara Reid and was briefly in a relationship with Zach Braff's character JD. But he was their brother, and his performance in there is absolutely stunning. It is. You don't have to watch the rest of Scrubs. You can just watch those 3, and it will bring you to tears. It is unbelievable.
God. Where do you think we are gets me every time.
Where do you think we are? Have you seen those episodes?
No,
Jeff?
I've never watched Scrubs.
What?
I'm just. I think it's just I think it's a Zach Braff thing. I'm just not. I'm not. I know Scrubs is just an absent thing on my timeline. I don't know. I know all the players in it, and I know all the actors. I know next to nothing about that show. And
Scrubs?
every time, and they used to rerun it on Comedy Central. I think.
It was rerun.
And I
all
would
the time.
catch it, and I would just be like, "This is just not for me." I think it's a Zach Braff thing where
Maybe.
I think I have more distaste for him than is rationally appropriate.
What? So you're saying you haven't seen Garden State?
I have seen. I live in New Jersey, of course.
What's the thing that she does where she's like, oh, no one's ever done this before in this area? It's like, oh, shut up, Natalie.
I think Garden State has a lot to do with it, too, because I felt like there was all this unwarranted praise. And this movie was not very good.
Soundtrack bangs, though. Soundtrack bangs.
Yeah, totally. Without a doubt.
Scrubs' era Zach Braff is better than the rest of it. I feel like Scrubs' era Zach Braff is unfortunately burdened with the image of post-Scrubs era Zach Braff.
Yeah.
And Scrubs is pretty much... my humor is defined by it in a lot of ways. It is to me what Friends is to most people.
I also hate Friends, but yes, I understand. I understand.
I get what you mean. But I think it's incredible. You should go out and just watch those 3 episodes. Just watch those 3 episodes with Brendan Fraser in it. They're
wait, I used a Scrubs reference last week and you didn't say anything.
What Scrubs reference last week?
The take away the porn.
You did when the doctor.
But you didn't say anything there. We could,
you mean I didn't say anything that I hate Scrubs?
Yeah.
I
mean, it feels like I'm learning a lot about you.
It just didn't feel appropriate to just go on a total sidetrack and be like, by the way, the reference you're using here, it's from a show I despise. It didn't feel like appropriate at the time.
Go fuck yourself. I hate this show.
But you should watch those 3 episodes. They take place in I think they take place over a couple of seasons, but they're the character appears, goes away, comes back, and then has a 2-episode arc that
Gotcha.
And it is phenomenal. And knowing what Brendan Fraser's going through at that time kind of adds a new layer to it, where you're like, oh man, he's in this because he had to be here, but look at him still absolutely putting in work, and just delivering a performance that is I sometimes it is one of those this scene will make you cry consistently kind of scenes. It's amazing. He was also in Crash, which won hella awards despite being an absolutely mid movie.
What did Crash beat to the Oscar?
It was something wild, something
Traffic?
no.
award.
There was another
Right?
movie that came
I
out
think
at the
it
time,
was.
which was like clearly a better movie in every conceivable way. But
Yeah,
I
we gotta
forget
look that
what
up.
it
Look
was.
that up.
I'm on it.
I remember that very specifically being like, oh, Crash is just winning because it's like this ensemble.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah. I mean, look, the
I
last
watched it and I thought it was absolutely
the only movie
awful.
that has deserved that award in the last 20 years is like, what the hell? God, I can't even fucking
Parasite.
remember. Yes, Parasite's the only film that truly deserved that award.
Yeah.
Oh, Oscar controversy. Oh, it beat Brokeback Mountain.
Interesting.
I mean, that, clearly a better film,
Yeah.
regardless. So he was in that, but overall he wasn't in a good place. In the GQ interview, he talks about seeing Brendan Ruth cast as Superman in Superman Returns, knowing that he was in the running to play that character in another iteration of the film. So at one point he was Superman. And Lucy,
Oh my gosh.
Can you read the quote that he said in regards to that?
Do you think Nicolas Cage feels the same way?
Yes.
You feel like I didn't measure up. Oh, I failed. And the truth is you didn't. That's erroneous. That's wrong. It's not true. You didn't fail. You're not. But even if like, as I sit here and say that to you right now, I feel like, well, no, the proof's right there.
So that's his response to them passing on him for the role?
That's his response to where he was. So like they passed on a role. So there was there was another version of that Superman movie where he was the front runner to be Clark Kent, Kal-El, and eventually like the movie changed obviously, but he was just not in the running at that point. Yeah. But you know, it still hurts. And then things got worse for him in 2007 when he got divorced from his wife and was forced to pay around $900,000 a year in child support. So that was a lot of money. And he ended up having to take roles that he knew weren't good roles to make ends meet. And it didn't go well. At one point, he was like, I don't have the money for this, and tried to argue down the amount of child support, and his ex-wife accused him of hiding his financials. So it was rough, and sadly it got from bad to worse for Brendan. The physical toll of movie making caught up with him, and he had to have multiple surgeries, including laminectomy, I believe that's right, which is a surgery, an operation they do on your spine to ease the pressure. And there were some complications with that one. He also had to have his vocal cords replaced because he was always screaming in his ass off in pretty much every movie. That was his part of his thing, that what people wanted from him. So here's Brendan Fraser in The Passion of Darkly Moon.
Oh my gosh, I know
Darkly
what
Moon.
this is.
Lucy, I don't know if you've seen this.
I haven't seen this.
This is so weird.
Why does this look like a rejected Nine Inch Nails video?
My man screams for 30 seconds.
Oh, it's too much.
That is a big scream. And then we have in The Mummy, there's that famous scene where, you know, the mummy screams at him and he screams back. And
coming out of the British Museum.
Yeah, and you know, George of the Jungle, he's constantly screaming. So he had to have his vocal cords replaced. And according to Fraser, he was in and out of hospital, piecing his body together for around 7 years. And during that time, he decided to retreat and figure himself out. Lucy, can you read that quote from Brendan?
I bought into the pressure that comes with the hopes and aims that come with a professional life that's being molded and shaped and guided and managed. That requires what they call thick skin, or just ignoring it, putting your head in the sand, or gnashing your teeth and putting on your public face, or just not even needing the public. Ignoring, staying home, damn it. You know, not because I'm aloof or anything, but because I just felt I couldn't be a part of it. I didn't feel that I belonged.
And that's what he did. And the world pretty much forgot about Brendan Fraser. And as quickly as he won everyone's hearts, being in Hollywood destroyed his one. And he faded into obscurity until recently. And now we get to the part where Brendan Fraser's down, but not out.
Like a phoenix.
Phoenix.
Rising from the ash.
So in 2015, he starred in a miniseries called Texas Rising. And there he met a horse that he bonded with and he decided to keep.
Oh, I didn't realize
if
this
you-
starts off with a horse relationship.
If you read the GQ interview, you can really tell how much he loves about this horse. Like he really cares about this horse. The horse's
very
name,
sweet.
for your interest, is Pecan.
Oh, great.
That's
Lovely.
big Viggo Mortensen energy there as well.
Yeah, huge.
He kept Brago from Lord of the Rings.
Tam, you muted yourself somehow.
Either that or he's just so fed up of me bringing up Lord of the Rings.
He's not brainy.
How did he do that?
Doctor, lawyer,
Is he
banker
frozen?
way, but he has
No,
something
he's
else.
just muted.
He has a
Sensual intelligence.
Uh-oh.
sensual intelligence.
Wow. Oh my god.
What is it with chicks and horses, huh?
Still muted? I can see his mouth moving.
Weird. I don't know. Is everything going all right with the recording?
Voidberger, you can keep that in.
She will find some way to make that
Yeah.
hilarious, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, so more importantly, that was a role for him, Texas Rising. And then he got cast in The Affair, which is another TV show by Danny Boyle,
Oh,
who said this about seeing Frasier. Lucy, can you read this quote in your best Danny Boyle voice?
wait, what accent does Danny Boyle have? He's
I ain't got
British?
a fucking clue. I think he's British.
He's British,
He's
yeah.
British.
I think
British. So just speak normally, I
do,
guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
do,
but
do a
I
British
thought
accent.
he was Scottish.
Can you give us a
Oh.
British accent? I'm sure you can pull one of those off.
It's one of those delicious moments where you
Nailed
see
it.
someone you're so familiar with who is so changed by time and by experience. You just kind of clock that, and it's both so sad and wonderful because we all share that same timeline.
Kill that.
British.
Kill that accent.
Well done.
So even people in Hollywood had forgotten him, and they were starting to remember why he was special. And if you look at people talking to him around the promotion of The Affair, they're like constantly saying he's got star quality. But sadly, Frasier's world would be rocked once more.
No.
So in 2016, he was doing an interview with AOL, and it was uncomfortable to say the least.
Okay.
He's barely able to speak. He can't really get his words out, and it seems to be like really holding himself together. It's super, super difficult to watch. We're not going to show it because it is tricky, and given the context, you can go out and find it if you want to watch it. And naturally, this video of Brendan Fraser kind of seemingly weirdly giving an interview goes viral. And it's kind of like sad Brendan Fraser.
I've seen, okay, that I'm familiar
Yeah.
with that thing.
It becomes a
yeah.
meme, and people started to theorize why. And they go for the health issues and the divorce. They were big points of discussion. In actual fact, a few days before that interview, Brendan Fraser's mum died of cancer.
Oh.
And he gave a quote. Lucy, can you read this unfortunate quote?
I buried my mom. I think I was in mourning and I didn't know what that meant. I wasn't quite sure what the format of the interview was, and I felt like, man, I got fucking old. Damn, this is the way it's done now.
So it was a hard time, but I think this is the moment where the internet kind of realized everything that was going on, and they started to rally around him. So for some, like me and Lucy, it was a reminder of why we adored seeing him in movies, charming, likable, and now we had the context of everything that he went through, and while we were also kind of oblivious to it all, and it was kind of guilt-inducing for a lot of people. Like, it's the same kind of thing, like, when you learn that a friend of yours has quietly been going through some real bad shit and you just didn't know, and you can't really do anything about it, but you still feel guilty about it. And you're like, damn, why didn't I know about this? For other people, it was like they were discovering him for the first time and joining the fandom around him, which is, how the internet works. So they find this man who seems to be really going through it and is sad, and they kind of relate to him. And then they learn how bad it was for him, and then they trace it back, and then they realize, oh, this guy's a really cool dude who's a great actor and is in some amazing films. And their new fans in a really wholesome way, and they want to see this guy who they newly discovered be okay and make a comeback. So these days, Brendan Fraser gets talked about very differently, and he's been cast in a bunch of shows. Most notably for us, he's in Doom Patrol, on which he plays Cliff Steele, aka Robot Man, and he does a fucking great job. So, going all the way back to that Shucks Ma'am video. So that video is actually a meet and greet with fans. And the thing I love about it is the way he says, I'm going to work with Scorsese and Leo and Bob De Niro. And it's said in a way that an actor would say if it was their first time acting opposite a notable like actor or with someone notable. And
it also like, it also is a sort of rite of passage for I think a certain caliber of actress who maybe like earns the right to say those people's names like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like this weird Hollywood club sort of thing that I feel like maybe he's finally allowing himself to be a part of in a way that's like affirming, you know, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. It kind of makes you realize that this dude who was on top of Hollywood has been through so much shit that it basically reset his entire career and started from scratch. And this feels like an important step for him. And he's like talking about how he's nervous and anxious about it. And the interviewer, who's dressed as Evie, although I've written down Rick O'Connell for some reason. I see, I've just got Rick in my mind constantly.
All Rick, all the time.
Yeah,
that's it.
She's dressed as Evie. Says, just know the internet is so behind you. We're so supportive. There are so many people out there who love you, and we're rooting for you. And he just takes a sip of water to try and gain some composure. And she does represent the internet. She's right. Like the internet is behind him. So back when he was making The Scorpion King, which is an entry in the Mummy series that is notable for having The Rock in it and being absolutely trash.
So we watched them all last year, and boy, did they go off a cliff.
Doesn't hold up, huh?
Yeah, The Rock is in it for 15 minutes and he's CGI and he looks awful.
Oh my God, I remember seeing that. It just looks so weird and smooth and strange. And,
So around then, like Fraser looked at The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, with envy. And in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, he said, this guy fills stadiums all over the world. Whatever he's got, I'll take it.
Sure.
And then imagine thinking that, and then after that, how it must have felt to fade into obscurity for whatever reason it is. And now someone's telling him that people across the internet care and want him to succeed. And it's no surprise that like he kind of cracks a bit, and given everything that he's been through.
Not taking anything away from the situation. How did he not know? How did he not know that like it's very clear that like,
if you read
I don't think a lot of celebrities have the internet.
Yeah, if you read the GQ article, if you read the GQ article, you can get a sense for the kind of life he leads.
Okay,
and he's
that
very
explains
much
it.
So there's some things about him that we haven't talked about, like one of his sons has autism, that he spends a lot of time taking care of as much as possible. He basically lives on a secluded farm. He stays out of the spotlight and is very, very much like disconnected from the world in a lot of ways. There's a bit in the interview where he gets anxious and he just says, I think I just need to let some arrows fly. And he goes inside and brings out a bow and arrow and then fires it at a target just off in the distance.
Oh, he meant literally.
Yeah, and absolutely, like the writer's like, he nails the bullseye and then just carries on.
Of course he does. Of course he nails the bullseye.
What I meant in suggesting like how does he know? Clearly he has a manager or an agent still, and like you would think that this person would just be like, oh Brendan, just so you know, I know we only speak once a month. I know you just want to be left alone in the woods and bless your heart. People love you right now. I just want you to get the vibe.
But I feel like
how many times do you think an actor has heard that from their manager? People love you. You're going to do great.
But that's the thing. If you have like the Brendan Fraser side of it, where it's someone who's struggling with self-belief and doesn't necessarily want to believe that, then you have the other side of it, who's fucking Kanye West bringing out Marilyn Manson, and you know you have he clearly has managers and people saying, oh, they love you, they'll do what they'll follow you whatever you do. But they won't say no. So there's like it's an ego continuum.
And sure, I mean,
you get Brendan on one side and Kanye.
But like we just found out, he's had a very specific sort of story, right? Like his story is very unique in a way that, like, you know, yes, I understand the point you're making too. It's it is nice to see that moment, right? If that was like the moment where he had this sort of epiphany, it being captured and recorded is very special.
And it was just a random person telling him. It wasn't like a Hollywood schmuck or some executive or something like that. It means a bit more. Yeah, there's another part in that interview where he's waiting for an interviewer or interviewee or a fan to appear in the meet and greet, and he's playing a Nintendo Switch.
I saw
he's
that.
Like very close to the camera, and like the person appears, and he's like, "1 second, I'm just."
Yeah, he's like he's just reading the playbook of like how to win over the internet page by page.
So, if our love of Robert Downey Jr. has taught us anything, it's that we love and kind of need an underdog story. We need someone to root for. Because it feels amazing when they succeed, right? And if you're lucky, you might get someone that's kind of nice out of it. And Brendan Fraser is that person. And that is why everyone is currently standing Brendan Fraser on the internet. The man's had a rough life, and he seems to be a good dude.
And it seems like he could be entering another chapter of his career and life.
Well, I was going to say, so we've had the reconnaissance. We've had the resurgence. That one was Kelly Plaguey.
What was the first one?
The Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
The reconnaissance, the resurgence, and now we have the, I don't know, the dawn of the Fraser age, or the, you know. That's maybe something for folks watching at home. Please come up with something.
I was trying to combine Fraser with Renaissance. But it doesn't.
Oh, that's a
the Renaissance.
Brendan Fraser. But that is the story of Brendan Fraser on the internet.
Wow.
How do you feel now, Jeff, knowing all that was going on when you thought he just like had enough money and moved on?
Yeah, I mean, fascinating story. I learned a lot. Still not super satisfied about the lack of airheads talked about in this recap, but we can get there and we can talk about that offline. But yeah, what a wild tale of ups and downs, and who doesn't love a comeback story?
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's a kind of sad. It's a feel good story, but it's important to remember that there's like a sad kind of journey that got him to where he is now. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because this happens a lot where we look at certain people and we take their worst moments and turn it into content for ourselves in like a memeable way. Like, you know, sad Keanu is a thing. And like Keanu's another one who's had a really difficult, horrible sequence of events that happened to him. And we don't pay attention to the people behind it. And I also realize that they're celebrities, you know, they have a different kind of life, but I'm also of the opinion that, they're celebrities, but they're also humans, and they
100%.
They live in front of us for our benefit, and we take advantage of the access we have to them and their work, and we should, like, where possible, give them some respect and acknowledge the horrible things that they've gone for, and try and put their lives in context before we take the piss or use it as a meme or whatever it may be.
You know, we definitely, everyone who absorbs popular culture in any capacity, like, could use the lesson of learning about these people being as human as you are. And I think, unfortunately, you know, we make these people disposable in a way, which is super sad. And people forget, like, you know what? Everybody's got fucking problems. You know, it doesn't matter what, like, who you are, how much money you have. Everyone suffers. Everyone has problems. We're all in this thing called life together, right? So that is definitely, this is a perfect sort of vessel for teaching that story and teaching that lesson. So
yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
If you'd like,
great job, Tam.
Thank you. If you'd like to share your problems, you can find Jeff Bacala on Twitter
at Jeff Bacala.
Send him all your problems. Just at him with every small, medium, and large problem that you've got.
I don't have enough of my own, so I need to outsource more.
You can find me on Twitter at TomorH. Lucy, Where can
Send
people
me
find
all
you?
your Rick pics to at Lucy James Games.
So one thing before we'll go is we'll recommend delving for Mummy fans into the Emotep memes that exist.
Oh, Emotep
Because
memes is so good.
Memotep is a thing, and it
What
is.
the hell's that?
So in the second movie, obviously the villain is Imhotep.
Oh, right, okay.
And there's a very
I got it.
creative, very large meme community called the Memoteps, and ship posters of Memotep memes, and it is
Very good.
Oh, it is so good. We had a good time delving into that community,
I
and
think it was
is
like last summer, wasn't it?
Yep,
that
it was,
the peak of the
and
Memoteps.
It was incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and we will see you on the next episode.
Just really good Lord.